so I believe you will enjoy a new video in my channel.
There are people who close the door once and never look back. And then there are those who swear it is over, delete the photos, block the number, tell their friends they are finally free, only to return when one late night message, one familiar perfume, or one memory hits them straight in the heart. Some zodiac signs do not simply remember love, they relive it. They do not just miss a person, they miss the unfinished story, the version of themselves that existed in that relationship, the dream that almost came true. That is why breaking up with them is rarely simple. Even when they know the relationship was exhausting, disappointing, or even painful, part of them keeps asking the same dangerous question: what if this time it will be different? These signs do not always go back because they are weak. Very often, they go back because they love deeply, hope stubbornly, forgive too much, and confuse emotional familiarity with destiny. They can feel a magnetic pull toward the past, especially when a former partner knew how to touch their most vulnerable places: their loneliness, their loyalty, their longing to be chosen, their fear of starting over. For some of them, an ex is not just an ex. It is an open wound, a half-written letter, a lesson they keep trying to rewrite into a happy ending. And that is exactly why their love lives can become complicated. They do not merely struggle to move on, they struggle to accept that some people return not because they are soulmates, but because they are habits. The most heartbreaking part is that these signs often know the truth before they admit it. They sense when a former lover has not changed. They notice the same coldness, the same inconsistency, the same emotional games, but they also remember the tenderness, the chemistry, the promises, the nights when everything felt sacred and irreplaceable. They return because they do not fall in love only with reality, they fall in love with memory, potential, and emotional echoes. And until they learn that peace can be more valuable than passion, they may keep reopening doors that should have stayed closed. Here are the first 3 zodiac signs most likely to go back to their exes and the real reasons why. Cancer, June 21, July 22. Cancer does not return to an ex because they are careless in love. They return because they bond through memory, and memory, for Cancer, is never light. It is alive. It breathes. It lingers in old messages, in songs, in places, in the exact tone of voice someone once used when saying their name. When Cancer loves, they do not just love the person in front of them. They build an emotional home around that person. They attach rituals, hopes, future plans, and layers of tenderness to the relationship. So when it ends, it does not feel like a simple breakup. It feels like losing a home they decorated with their entire heart. That is why Cancer can go back even after being hurt badly. They do not only miss the ex, they miss the emotional universe they created together. What makes it especially difficult for Cancer to build a truly strong and happy relationship after heartbreak is that they carry emotional residue for a very long time. Even when they begin dating someone new, a part of them may still compare the new person to the old story. Not always because the ex was better, but because the ex was deeper in their memory. Cancer often forgives far more than they should. They can return 2, 3, even 4 times if the former partner knows exactly how to awaken nostalgia and guilt. One sincere apology, one "I still think about you," one emotional confession, and Cancer starts wondering whether love deserves one more chance. They are especially vulnerable when the breakup was ambiguous, when there was no full closure, or when they secretly believe the relationship failed because the timing was wrong rather than the connection itself. The tragedy is that Cancer does not always return to what was real. They often return to what was once beautiful. They remember the good moments with painful clarity and sometimes soften the cruelty, neglect, or instability that came later. This sign is capable of extraordinary forgiveness, but that gift can become self-destructive when given to someone who keeps breaking the same promises. Relationships with the exes for Cancer often end in cycles rather than one final ending. There may be a breakup, then months of silence, then a reunion, then another disappointment. It can take Cancer years to accept that love is not supposed to feel like emotional survival. Once they finally understand that true devotion should not require constant repair, they stop returning. But before that lesson is learned, Cancer can keep reopening the same chapter long after the story has already shown them how it ends. Libra, September 23, October 22. Libra returns to exes for a reason many people do not immediately understand. They hate emotional ugliness. They hate unfinished endings, tension, silence, and the feeling that something precious has turned sour. When Libra falls in love, They do not only invest feelings, they invest belief. They believe in the bond, in the beauty of connection, in the possibility that two people can choose each other again after conflict. Even when a breakup is necessary, Libra often struggles to accept such a harsh conclusion. Part of them wants to restore harmony, repair the bond, and bring back the softness that once existed. And because they are ruled by the desire for partnership, loneliness after separation can hit them hard. They may not always miss the specific person as much as they miss being part of a pair, being understood, being desired, being someone's chosen person. That is why Libra may go back to a former partner even after swearing they are done. Their heart is vulnerable to charm, memory, and emotional diplomacy. If the ex returns with beautiful words, regret, flowers, long conversations, or promises of maturity, Libra wants to believe them. They are often the sign that says, people can change, and sometimes that faith becomes the very reason they suffer. Building truly stable and happy relationships can be painful for Libra because they do not always separate love from hope. They can remain emotionally attached to a fantasy of what the relationship could become, rather than judging it by what it has repeatedly been. And if the chemistry was strong, if the relationship looked beautiful from the outside, if others believed they were perfect together, Libra may stay emotionally tangled much longer than they should. Libra can forgive an ex more times than they admit, often 2 or 3 serious returns, sometimes more if the history was intense and the emotional connection felt faded. But every time they go back without real change from the other person, something inside them becomes more tired, more doubtful, more wounded. The same ex who once made them feel adored can later become the reason they no longer trust sweet words. Their cycles with former partners often end when they finally see the imbalance clearly. They were carrying the grace, the patience, the diplomacy, the emotional labor, while the other person kept enjoying second chances. Libra's great lesson is that peace is not the same as reconciliation. Sometimes peace only begins when they stop negotiating with the past. And once Libra truly learns that love should not require them to keep restoring what another person keeps ruining, they become much harder to pull back into old stories. Pisces, February 19, March 20th. Pisces is one of the most likely signs to go back to an ex because Pisces does not love in straight lines. They love through intuition, longing, symbolism, dreams, and emotional undercurrents that other people do not always see. Even after a breakup, Pisces can still feel connected to someone in a way that seems almost mystical. They replay moments, sense unfinished energy, and often convince themselves that if the bond still feels alive, then maybe it is not truly over. This sign does not easily separate emotion from imagination. If there was once deep chemistry, soulful conversation, tenderness, or the feeling of being spiritually understood, Pisces can carry that connection like a private ocean inside them. And when the ex reappears, especially in a vulnerable moment, Pisces may interpret it as fate knocking twice. What makes strong and truly happy relationships difficult for Pisces after heartbreak is that they often see the wounded side of the other person before they see the danger. They understand pain. They sympathize with brokenness. They are the sign most likely to say, they acted that way because they were hurting, or they just need more love to heal. And while compassion is beautiful, in Pisces it can become a trap. They may repeatedly forgive betrayal, inconsistency, emotional disappearance, or broken promises because they keep searching for the hidden goodness beneath the damage. Pisces can go back more times than almost any other sign, 3, 4, sometimes even more, especially if the ex knows how to speak the language of regret and vulnerability. Tears, confessions, late-night apologies, declarations of spiritual connection, these things are dangerously effective on Pisces. But returning to an ex rarely stays romantic for long when the old pattern has not changed. Pisces may hope each reunion will be softer, wiser, more mature, yet often finds themselves back inside the same emotional storm. The problem is not that Pisces loves too much. The problem is that they sometimes love without enough boundaries. They can mistake emotional intensity for destiny and sacrifice their peace to keep a connection alive. Relationships with the exes often end for Pisces when the illusion finally collapses, not in one dramatic moment, but in a slow realization that love should not leave them confused, drained, and begging the universe for signs. Once Pisces learns to trust actions more than emotional atmospheres, everything changes. Until then, they may keep returning to former lovers not because those people are right for them, but because Pisces keeps hoping the ending can still be rewritten into the love story they first believed it was. Taurus, April 20, May 20th. Taurus goes back to an ex not because they are indecisive, but because they are deeply attached to what once felt safe, familiar, and real. This sign does not open up quickly, and that is exactly why breakups hit them harder than most people realize. When Taurus lets someone into their life, it is never casual. They do not just give a person their time, they give them routine, loyalty, physical comfort, daily presence, and a place inside the structure of their world. So when the relationship ends, Taurus is not simply grieving a person. They are grieving the loss of stability, the collapse of rituals, the absence of someone whose presence became woven into their everyday life. That is why exes can keep such a strong hold over them. Taurus misses what was familiar even when it was flawed. This sign often returns because they do not easily replace emotional comfort. Starting over feels exhausting to Taurus. Learning a new person, building a new rhythm, trusting again, opening their guarded heart again. All of that feels like heavy emotional labor. An ex already knows them, already understands their habits, already belongs to a part of their memory that feels warm and lived in. If that former partner comes back with promises of consistency, change, or renewed devotion, Taurus can be tempted to believe that it is easier to restore the old bond than to risk the uncertainty of something new. They can forgive more than people think, usually 2 or 3 major betrayals, and sometimes even more if love, physical chemistry, or shared history were especially strong. Taurus may act proud, but when their heart is still attached, pride often loses to longing. What hurts Taurus in building truly strong and happy relationships is that they can become loyal to what has already proven it cannot fully protect them. They are so committed to the idea of lasting love that they sometimes endure what should have ended long ago. They may stay emotionally tied to former partners through memory, stubborn hope, and the quiet belief that if enough time has passed, things must surely be different now. But often, when Taurus returns, they meet the same emotional laziness, the same dishonesty, the same inconsistency that hurt them the first time. Their relationships with exes often end in drawn-out cycles: reunion, hope, slow disappointment, painful ending, silence, and then another attempt months later. The hardest lesson Taurus must learn is that familiarity is not the same as safety. Once they understand that peace matters more than history, they become almost impossible to pull backward. But until then, they can keep trying to revive love long after it has stopped being able to nourish them. Scorpio, October 23, November 21. Scorpio returns to exes for reasons far deeper than simple attachment. When Scorpio loves, it is rarely half-hearted. Their relationships leave marks. They do not forget people who touch them at soul level, especially if the bond was intense, passionate, magnetic, or destructive in a way that still feels unfinished. Scorpio does not always go back because they believe the relationship will work. Sometimes they go back because they cannot bear emotional loose ends. They want answers, closure, proof, power, redemption, and sometimes all of those things at once. For Scorpio, an ex is not always just a former lover. It can be someone who still lives inside their emotional bloodstream, someone connected to betrayal, obsession, desire, humiliation, or the desperate hope of finally getting the love that once escaped them. This sign has one of the most complicated patterns with former partners because Scorpio can hold both rage and longing at the same time. They may say they are done forever, block the person, disappear, rebuild themselves, and still feel the pull months later if the connection was powerful enough. What makes Scorpio return is often not softness, but intensity. If the ex comes back with passion, emotional honesty, or the promise of total transformation, Scorpio wants to test whether the love can finally become worthy of everything they once felt. They do not forgive lightly, but when they do forgive, it is often extreme. Scorpio may return once after betrayal, sometimes twice if the remorse feels real, but each return costs them something. If they go back a third time, the relationship is usually already tied to an addiction like emotional pattern rather than healthy love. Scorpio can endure shocking levels of pain if they still believe the bond is exceptional. Virgo, August 23, September 22. Virgo goes back to exes in a way many people completely misunderstand. At first glance, Virgo seems too rational, too self-controlled, too proud to revisit the past. But Virgo's heart has a secret habit. It does not let go of unfinished problems easily. This sign is ruled by the need to understand, improve, analyze, and repair. So when a relationship ends, Virgo often does not just grieve, they mentally reopen the entire history and study it like a complicated case. What went wrong? What could have been handled differently? What did the other person mean? Was the timing bad? Could the bond have worked under different conditions? That is exactly why Virgo can return. Not always because they are overwhelmed by romance, but because part of them believes the relationship might have been fixable if only both people had tried harder, spoken more honestly, or made better choices. Virgo is deeply vulnerable to the ex who returns with logic, accountability, and promises of improvement. If someone says, "I know what I did wrong, I've changed," or "Now I understand what you needed from me," Virgo listens. They listen because growth matters to them. They listen because they themselves are often willing to work hard for love. And they listen because they can be incredibly forgiving when they believe there is genuine effort. Virgo may not return quickly, but once they do, they often return with serious intention. They want it to work for real this time. That is why repeated disappointment cuts them so deeply. Virgo can forgive one major failure, maybe two, but if the ex keeps repeating the same emotional patterns, the pain becomes sharper each time. This is a sign that begins by trying to heal the relationship and ends by silently carrying all the emotional weight alone. What hurts Virgo in building truly strong and happy relationships is their tendency to overinvest in repair. They can spend too much time trying to rescue a love that has already shown them its limits. Instead of asking whether the relationship truly nourishes them, Virgo may ask whether it can still be improved. That mindset keeps them emotionally tied to EXes longer than they should be. Relationships with former partners often end for Virgo only after a final moment of clarity, when the evidence becomes impossible to deny. They see that they were the one adapting, understanding, forgiving, explaining, and trying again, while the other person kept offering apologies without real change. When Virgo finally lets go, it is usually final. But before that final break, they can return more than once because they believe love deserves effort. Their deepest lesson is learning that not everything broken is meant to be repaired. Sometimes the healthiest thing Virgo can do is stop rewriting the same emotional equation and choose a love that does not arrive as a problem to solve.
Bye, thank you for your attention. Just subscribe to my channel.